now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligiero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay today. Now, it's been a while. Today's show, it's brought to you by my book. That's it, just my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. Get yourself a copy today. Amazon. It's also on Barnes & Noble, or just let me know and I'll get you a copy. All right, man. It's been a while. We've been off for a little bit, and I just got to make sure I remember how to do this show. Want to make sure we're actually on, and it appears to be. So I hope everybody's been doing okay. I've been doing okay. I've been doing all right. And I figured we would start a show again. We're shooting to do Thursdays. Right now, I'm solo. I plan on having some guests join us. Hopefully, Alex and Dax can join us at some point. Also, the infamous Jeremy C. He may be joining us sooner than later. We also got, hopefully, John Musciunas. He's busy right now with a Don King show. So a lot of stuff cooking, and hopefully we'll get rolling. But speaking about getting rolling, let's start talking about what prompted me to come back and do a show. And hopefully everybody can hear and see everything okay. If not, let me know, because, I'm getting old, and it's been a year. Can you believe a year went by since we did our last show? Anyway, I think it's a year. Anyway, Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou, they fought this past weekend. I got to be honest, I didn't buy the fight. I didn't think it was going to be a competitive fight. From what I understand, the sales, the pay-per-view sales were really low, so I wasn't the only one. I did watch the fight after it was over, and I was shocked. I've been talking with some MMA fans over those last several months, and I've heard nothing but good things about Ngannou. But it's his first pro fight, and he's fighting arguably the best heavyweight on the planet, and I just didn't see I didn't see him having much of a chance, especially Tyson Fury, who is a defensively sound fighter, and also in his last Tyson Fury, in his last several fights, he's finally been, knocking people out and that kind of thing. So I really, really didn't think Ngannou would do much. And the general consensus about Ngannou was that, everybody knew he had power, including myself. I did watch some video of him, freakish power, but the general consensus was that he was going to run out of gas. And he didn't. He went the distance. So a couple of thoughts. First and foremost, Fury, 35 years old. He's the WBC heavyweight champ. He's got a record of 34-0 with a draw, with 24 of his wins coming by knockout. Ngannou, 37. That kind of sucks for Ngannou, because here's a guy that, here's a guy that all of a sudden busts onto the boxing scene if he chooses to stay in the sport. And he's 37 years old. So I'll get to what he's going to have to do. But a couple of things I noticed. Tyson Fury, my thoughts on that was that he took the fight lightly. He was out of shape. He looked real soft. He was making comments going into the fight that he planned on fighting 10 more times, which I think is total BS. But here's the thing. Everybody said, oh, he looked fat. He looked fat. He did look fat, but he kind of always looks fat. He weighed 277 and 3/4 pounds for this fight against Ngannou, which was almost 10 pounds more than his last fight. But wait a minute. When he fought Deontay Wilder in their last fight, he weighed exactly the same amount, 277 and 3/4 pounds. So, now people are starting to say, was he out of shape? I've been a big Tyson Fury fan. Really, I've watched every one of his fights since his third fight. We had an England correspondent back in the day, and he turned me on to Tyson Fury, and I watched him develop. Here's a fighter that really had to learn to fight people his own size. He developed, even his jab he had a tendency to deliver his punches on a downward because of his opponents were so small. But he's gotten better, and he rose to the top of the heavyweight division. Ngannou rose to the top of MMA, and great story. If you don't know, I mean, the guy had to escape to come here and everything else. Chiseled specimen. Again, another reason why I thought he would run out of gas. A lot of times when you see these guys that are loaded with muscles, they run out of gas, but he didn't. Here's the thing. I thought Ngannou fought smart, and he actually made Tyson Fury go to him. He seemed to have good ring generalship for a guy that never fought in the boxing ring. He controlled the ring, in my opinion. He kept cutting the ring off and waiting for Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury himself likes to counter punch. And, he does at times go in aggressively, but he had to for this whole fight. I give Ngannou a lot of credit for staying the course and putting on a pretty good fight, for no doubt about that. Now, Tyson Fury was supposed to fight Usyk in December. Well, it was announced the other day, on Wednesday, actually. Yesterday, I guess. I'm losing track of the days. That fight has been put off, as we all kind of knew. Tyson, had some damage done. They're shooting for February 22nd. I saw on social media today, there's a lot of people that feel that he's never going to fight Usyk, that they'll probably have a rematch if he doesn't retire. Like I said, I think Tyson Fury took the fight lightly. He was out of shape. I think he should concentrate on a Usyk fight, be the best he can be. And if he comes out on top, I think that Tyson Fury, and this is specifically for Tyson Fury, I think he should retire as a champion. I mean, that's a big thing in today's sporting world, to go out on top, whether you're in a boxer, whether you're in football, baseball, whatever, to end your career as a champion in boxing, or as a Super Bowl champion, or a World Series champion, or, any other sport, to leave at the top of your game. So often, athletes, make mistakes when they're younger. They learn the wisdom as they age, but their bodies just can't respond as quickly, and some of them hang on too long. I think Tyson Fury has an opportunity to get back to basics, concentrate on Usyk, and fight him. That's one option, and then go out on top. Should Usyk win the fight? Now you say to yourself, well, what should Tyson Fury do? Should he exercise the rematch clause, which, I honestly don't know if there is one for the Usyk fight. I would imagine there's one, because if there's not, that would be a stupid move. And try his, to beat Usyk the second time. And he could also not even fight Usyk. He could walk out and retire right now. I don't think, I don't think that would be a bad thing for Tyson Fury, the man, Tyson Fury. I think this Ngannou fight would be the fight on everybody's mind. So he's got to do something to keep his legacy intact, in my opinion, just for overall, what people are going to think. When you look at his accomplishments and everything else, I mean, it's hard to argue that, he should lose that much juice. But He is. Now, as far as Ngannou, I think I came up with a couple of things with Ngannou. And these are all things that he could improve on if he can improve on quickly. This is a guy that can be doing very well in the heavyweight division. I think he needs to shore up his defense. Yes, he was smart, but he did take some shots. I mean, the punch stats were pretty close, in my opinion, based on punch stats. I mean, they were definitely close. It's not an opinion thing if you read them. I also think that Ngannou had a tendency to be a little too flat-footed. So if he could develop some footwork and keep his hands up a little better, and develop a jab. I mean, those three things, which every fighter needs to do, right? Have decent footwork, deploy a good jab, and then also, have a little defense. I think if this cat can do that, who's going to beat him in the heavyweight division? I'm going to take a look at the heavyweight division right now. Not this second, in a couple minutes, but right now he's 37 years old. His biggest enemy, Ngannou's biggest enemy, is time. I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, 37 and a guy's in shape like that, he's got another 5-6 years. Okay, maybe. But the truth of the matter is he's in a really good position right now. I read a comment from him saying that his ultimate goal right now is a rematch with Fury. There's a lot of other money fights out there for Ngannou. First of all, I think a fight with Deontay Wilder would be good. I initially wanted to see Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua fight on the undercard of Tyson Fury and Usyk. I think that would have been great. I mean, from what we've been seeing on pay-per-views and stuff, it just garbage shows. I mean, these other fights, the Canelo Charlo card was awful. So I mean, Ngannou's got some good stuff going on right now. A fight with Deontay Wilder, a fight with Anthony Joshua, or even a fight with Andy Ruiz Jr. All could make Ngannou money and make his opponent money. He's a draw. People are going to want to see him fight. You would think, again, we don't know, but you would think that Tyson Fury is going to fight Usyk. Okay. Well, Ngannou can't wait around, because the truth of the matter is if he beats a guy like Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua or even Andy Ruiz, his credibility, even though he's got it right now, don't get me wrong, but his legitimate credibility in the heavyweight division should skyrocket. And he would be making himself even more money with a potential rematch with Tyson Fury. Or if Tyson Fury fights Usyk and Usyk beats him, which, hey, let's be real, that's a real good possibility. I mean, Usyk is a genius in the ring, very awkward. He does things, mentally strong. And then a fight between Usyk and Ngannou. I mean, look, it opens up the doors for a lot of stuff, and I think that they both Tyson Fury and Ngannou need to have a substantial fight next. Ngannou, he bucked all the odds by getting right in and fighting arguably the best heavyweight out there. And there's a lot of people out there that feel he won. The card was close. I do think Tyson Fury won the fight by a point. But it was close enough. I mean, the pay-per-view numbers were terrible. But guess what? A rematch won't be, So a lot of stuff could happen with both these fighters. And it would be interesting to see what Tyson Fury decides to do, whether he goes through with his fight with Usyk, which I believe he will. And then Ngannou, the reason why I would like to see him fight Deontay Wilder, I mean, anybody that's ever watched my show knows that I'm not a big fan of Deontay Wilder, but the man has freakish power. It would be interesting to see Ngannou take a shot. I mean, let's be real. Deontay Wilder punches much harder than Tyson Fury, although Tyson Fury has, like I said earlier, has developed or realized his punching power. So a lot of good stuff. And now when you take a look at the heavyweight division, it's weak right now, and that's in Ngannou's favor. I was looking at the rankings. And these rankings were as October 27th. And, you look at all these fighters in the heavyweight division, and there's not many that really jump out at you. I mean, it's the same fighters that they're recycling. The same names we hear: Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Andy Ruiz Jr., and pretty much that's it. You got some other fighters in the mix. Otto Wallin, which is a good fighter. Of all these fighters, of the current heavyweights, aside from you know wanting to see Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua fight each other. Maybe Andy Ruiz fighting Otto Wallin. And then, some kind of a round robin and the winners fight each other. Then you got the Usyk, Tyson Fury fight, and you got Ngannou now is in the mix. So with those handful of fighters, we got some stuff going on. I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's in the chat room. I'm glad you're there. I can't multitask that much and type and talk and think. I'm getting old, But I haven't had a scotch yet, so maybe I could. But the truth of the matter is, I like Frank Sanchez, the Cuban fighter, 23-0. 16 of his wins coming by knockout. The computer ranks him at number 18 in the world. WBC has him number 4. WBA has him at number 15. IBF has him at number 5, and the WBO has him at 3. I think he's legit, and I think that all the sanctioning bodies that are ranking him can justify that. I like Frank Sanchez now, which I'm going to get to a little later about the problems with the sport. Now, it's up to Frank Sanchez's people to get him the right fights. If you look at his resume, he's got some decent fight. His last good fights. Okay, he's got his last fight was one of his best wins. He fought Scott Alexander on September 30th of this year. Alexander couldn't make it out for the 4th round. It was a scheduled 10 round fight. In October of last year, he stopped Carlos Negron in the 9th out of a scheduled 10 round fight. He won a 10 round decision over Christian Hammer in January of last year. And back in October of 21, he fought Efe Ajagba, which, if you recall, at that time, they were both up and coming undefeated fighters. So I like Frank Sanchez. I think that he needs a big fight. Maybe him and Andy Ruiz. So he's a guy that I'm keeping an eye on in the heavyweight division. Once all these recycled heavyweights go off into Neverland or whatever. Once Deontay's out of the picture and AJ's out of the picture and Tyson Fury's out of the picture. I mean, when you start looking at these young heavyweights, there's not much to look at. There's not much to look forward to. I do like Frank Sanchez. And I'll tell you another guy I like. I like this kid, Johnny Fisher. Now, he's an English fighter. He's only got 10 pro fights. He's similar in build and stature as Frank Sanchez and Ngannou at 6'4", but he's 24 years old. Sanchez is 31 years old. I didn't give you his lowdown on that. He's 21 years old. He fights around 241 to 247 pounds, 6'4", 78-inch reach. He's a formidable heavyweight. And if his team gives him the chance to get better and better and not be stagnant at where he is right now by giving him the same level of opposition. And that's the problem, boys and girls, with the sport today. I'll get to that a little later. But this kid, Johnny Fisher, he's only 24. The same type of size and build as Sanchez at 6'4". He's usually fighting in around the same weights as well, between 238, 242, something like that. He's good. He needs to improve his defense. He needs to improve his jab. He needs to improve his footwork. He's only got 10 fights. He needs to step them up now, because of his 10 fights, they've been against very calculated risk opponents. They got to step him up at this point. If you want this kid to get better. And that's the problem with boxing today. One of the problems that they don't test their fighters there because the sport of boxing has evolved into, if a fighter loses, he's no good. He's got no market value. He's got this, he's got that, which is totally wrong. But it's not fair to the fighters, because what happens is you get a guy, you build him up. Now his record looks fantastic, and you put him in a real fight for a title, and he gets blown out, and then everybody says, "Oh yeah, he was overrated. Oh, he was this and that." Well, a lot of times it's not the fighter's fault. Every fighter, I would imagine, because if they don't say it, they shouldn't be fighting. But every fighter out there wants to be the best, and they want to challenge themselves. So, the heavyweight division, it's not at its greatest point, but we do have a couple of main, players that are in the heavyweight division that should start fighting each other. And again, I'll get to a little more of the problems with boxing, but this is where the promoters don't want, their fighters fighting other promoters' fighters. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. A couple of fights that I wanted to mention this weekend on DAZN. Joe Cordia against Edward Vasquez for Cordinia's IBF super featherweight title. And the co-main event is, now I'm going to murder names. Some things never change, right? Singvi Munshinga puts his IBF junior flyweight title on the line against Adrian Carell. When you look at Munshinga, he's the champ. This is a guy that's making his second world title defense. He won the title in September of 2022 with a 12-round split decision over Hector Flores Calixto. Again, you know me. I can't even say my last name. That's why it's Billy C. 24 years old, 12-0 with 9 knockouts. Busy fighter. I like this kid. And he's fighting against another guy very similar in style with Adrian Carell, who's 23 wins, 4 losses, and a draw. He's only got 4 knockouts. He's not a power puncher, but he's a volume puncher. Munshinga, he's got 9 knockouts of his 12 fights. That's the co-main event. The main event's an interesting fight. When you look at it, Joe Cordia is the champion, and he's taken on a guy in Edward Vasquez, who the IBF has him ranked at number 9. The computer ranks Vasquez number 51. So on paper, this doesn't look like a very competitive fight. His record, 15 wins, 1 loss. And of his 15 wins, he's only got 3 knockouts. Here's another interesting fact about Vasquez. He's never gone 12 rounds. At 28 years old, he doesn't seem to have a lot of power. He's only got the 3 knockouts, and his opposition, it hasn't been that good. His height, he's given up 2 inches. He's 5'7". He's given up 2 inches against Cordia. And his last 2 fights were against decent opposition, and both of them were this year. So Vasquez will be fighting his 3rd time, which is, in these days, it's like, he's going to win Fighter of the Year award, unfortunately. But his last 2 fights in February 17th, he won a 10-round split decision over Misael Lopez. And in July of this year, he won a 10-round decision over Brian D. Garcia. I read somewhere today that there's several people that feel that he's going to upset Cordia, but I'm not so sure. Cordia is the IBF World Super Featherweight Champ, or Junior Lightweight Champ, however you look at it. He's ranked at number 4 in the world by the computer. He's not ranked by any other sanctioning body because he's a world champ. He's 5'9". Like I said, he's got a 2-inch height advantage, and his reach is a little longer as well. This guy throws a lot of punches, and he's got a pretty good defense. 16-0 with 9 knockouts. His last 3 fights were against, last 3 fights, not only were they against all good opponents, they were all good. They were all world title fights. He won the title against, let's see, he won the title against, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this guy's name, but Shavkat Rakhimov in 2023, April 22nd. He run a second round knockout over Kenchi Ogawa. I'm sorry, he won the second round knockout over Ogawa to win the title. The Rakhimov fight was a quality fighter that he won a 12-round decision over. That was his last fight. Prior to that, he won a 10-round unanimous decision over Miko Chatran, and those are his last 3 fights against good opposition. I think this guy is pretty good. He's 31 years old. And we'll see what happens in this fight. I'm not making any predictions. I don't know that much about any of these fighters this weekend on DAZN. But that fight looks interesting, and that fight looks like a fight that I'm going to watch, actually. But let's see. Some upcoming fights that I'm interested in. David Benavidez against Demetrius Andrade. Demetrius Boo Andrade, I look back at this guy's career, and he was so loyal to Joe DeGuardia and Star Boxing by sticking with him for so long. And it was a mistake. I think if you recall, he was co-promoted by him and another promoter, Joe DeGuardia, and it never works out like that. He didn't seem to get the fights that he wanted, and then fighters didn't want to fight him because he kind of makes all fighters look bad. So his career, although a lot of people had high hopes for him, it never really got anywhere. This particular fight against David Benavidez for super middleweight title, I don't see him. I see him making Benavidez look bad, but I don't see him winning this fight. Benavidez is a beast, and I could see Andrade getting knocked out. This is taking place November 25th on a pay-per-view. December 2nd on DAZN, a fight I'm looking forward to, Ryan Garcia against Oscar Duarte. I like the fight, and I think it's going to be an interesting fight. December 9th, another pay-per-view. You notice that the pay-per-views are coming back? You notice that no television has fights. I'm going to all get into that. Regis Progress against Devin Haney. It's a good fight. December 26th, Inoue against Marlon Tapples on ESPN Plus. And in January, you got Artur Beterbiev against Callum Smith, unification light heavyweight fight. Interesting fight there. The big question is, can Callum Smith stay off the canvas? Because Beterbiev, if I recall correctly, I don't have his record in front of me. I think he's won every fight by knockout. And then, of course, which is still on the schedule now, or at least tentatively in February, the Tyson Fury Olander Usyk fight. All right. So I said that there's some problems with the sport, right? Here's the biggest problem. The interest level and boxing. I think boxing's in trouble. All right. And I think it's boxing's own fault. Look, even during the time when my guy, Tom Molyneux, that I wrote my book on, even during that time, okay, there was greed involved. There was shysters. There was ripoffs. There was all the same crap that goes on today. It was going on back in the 1800s when Molyneux fought. Nothing has changed in that area. It went on in the 30s, and the 40s, and the 50s, okay? It was the same crap, all right? But it's a little different today, and I'll tell you why. And I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get criticized, but today's fighters are all looking for the easiest path to a world title and to money. Now, I don't blame them. I mean, human nature is to try to find the easiest path to what you're doing. But generally, the easiest path isn't the best path. And it doesn't make, especially in the fight game, it does in any professional sport, really, it doesn't make a champion in boxing a longevity. It doesn't give them longevity as a champion. The guy that builds up and gets better and better and better after every fight is the guy that becomes a champion and stays a champion for a long time. Andre Berto was a great example of a fighter that never fought anybody, right? And then he gets his title shot. He wins the title. Then he loses, and everybody said, "Well, he's still developing." Well, wait a minute. Whoa, wait. Why are fighters that are still in a developmental stage fighting for a world title? I know the easy answer is because there's so many world titles. Everybody's got a title, right? But the problem is somewhere along the line, and I know when, but I'm not going to mention it. Somewhere along the line, we got the misconception in the sport of boxing that a fighter is no good when they lose a fight. So therefore, the promoters feel they can't promote them. The networks feel they won't get people to watch them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's totally wrong. Back in the day, and now what's happened is because of that, and because of the demanding prices that fighters want to fight for and everything else, the backbone of boxing was the club shows. The club shows were the backbone of boxing. And the way it used to work was that a local area would have a fighter, right? And that fighter might have went to school with all his buddies, and they bring a fight to his town, and all the locals want to come out and see Johnny fight, and that's how they build up a following. And then that guy from that town maybe fights another guy from another town in another state that has a backing, and maybe they win, maybe they lose, but the fan base is there, and that's the important thing. Now, back in those days, all you needed to do was to sell enough tickets and sponsors and everything else. Well, today, promoters, and that was called grassroots promoting. Promoters would have to go and knock on doors and sell ads in the program, or sell ring apron ads and stuff like that, or the fighters would get sponsorships, or the fighters would sell tickets and make some side money by selling a certain amount of tickets. It was a big thing. It was grassroots promoting, and you always saw a lot of people with asses in the seats. But then TV came around and started paying for fights, and we started seeing it with ESPN. ESPN used to pay $50,000 for a fight to a promoter to bring the undercard to put on the fight. ESPN would take care of the main event, and the promoter would have to put on the undercard. Okay, well, what did we start seeing? We started watching fights on ESPN. Nobody was at them. Why? Because the promoter was lazy. He didn't care about selling tickets. He got a couple of kids that wanted to get a win, so he made their sides pay for the opposition. I'm just telling you how the business works, fellas, and they pay for the opponents. So the promoter, he's sitting there counting his 50 G's. Maybe he had to fork over some money for the venue or whatever the case is, but, he made his money. Greed, all right? That went bye-bye, because, the television network started not, people stopped watching those fights because they weren't competitive. Then you get the model, the pay-per-view model. Everybody got sick of the pay-per-view model, right? Well, then streaming came around. And what do we see now? A promoter aligns himself with a streaming service, and then all his fighters fight on that streaming service. So you got to buy that streaming service to watch those fighters. But what if you like a fighter from another promoter? Oh, they got their streaming service too. So you got to buy that. And then what do you see? Frigging commercials on pay-per-views. When the hell did that happen? You're paying for the pay-per-view. Why are we watching commercials? Greed, 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 greed. And who are they fleecing? The boxing fan. They're fleecing the boxing fan. And I think that boxing's in trouble. The commission requirements. So these small-time venues that could seat 300 people or whatever, how can a promoter make money off of 300 people in the seats when 4-round fighters today are demanding $2,500 to fight. It used to be $100 a round. Now, I'm not knocking the fighters for getting as much as they can, but it makes it very difficult when you're sitting there, with a 300-seat arena, and you don't need a calculator to figure out you're never going to make the money back. So now a promoter's forced to get a bigger arena. Well, with a bigger arena, you need to sell more tickets. And if you can't sell 300 tickets, well, let me get TV involved. Let me get a sponsor. Let me get this. And it's not happening anymore. The commission requirements have gotten very expensive too. I know I promoted in New York State. I promoted in several states, but New York State, I mean, the amount of money you need before you can even sell one ticket is outrageous. So the small time promoter is forced to try to kick it out in a big venue. The fighters, they're looking for as much money as they can. It's the 4-round fighters that are screwing things up, in my opinion. The fact is you want fighters that, you want even fights, and yes, they should get paid, but they should be affordable. The sponsorships, there's a lack of sponsorships. Local sponsorships used to be the norm. That's not the case anymore. Ticket sales, people want to stay home and watch it. They don't want to go out to the club and watch the fight, which is a mistake, because there is no sport like boxing live. There's no sport like boxing live. The other big problem, in my opinion, is the Don King syndrome, the one and done promoter. Now, when I say the Don King syndrome, what I mean is, it's, everybody knows Don King made a pretty good living off of promoting boxing, right? And so people want to make their money. So boxing is very easy to get into. All you need is a checkbook that actually has money in the account, and you're in. You could be a promoter, you could be a manager, you could be anything you want. Just pay and you're in. Okay. Unfortunately. So a promoter says, you know what? Don King made millions of dollars. I too can. And they go and they put on a show, and they get faced with reality, and they lose their ass. And what happens? They never promote a show again, which is bad for boxing. You need again, the key is what used to be. You get a local kid that the local community likes, that you're in an area that you could put on a show for an affordable price, may not be greedy, just hope that you can make a couple of bucks as a promoter and sell tickets and start to get a following. That's what you need to do in the sport of boxing. But a lot of promoters don't want to fight. Put their fighters against another one, or they don't want to risk losing a fight, and so on and so forth. And the end result is what we're going through today. When you look at the fighters and all the rankings and stuff, they're not that great. I'm sorry. With all of the nutritional breakthroughs that we've had in the last 50 years, okay, all the nutritional breakthroughs, all of the training techniques, how you can work specific muscles, all these things. I mean, technically, our athletes today in any sport are way better than they were. Listen, I was a guy. I did this show for 20 years, right? We're now in our 21st year, starting today. I was the guy that would always say about the older fighters and this and that. But listen, facts are facts. Nutritional advancements, training technique advancements, all that stuff are so much better. Physically, the fighters are bigger and stronger and faster, right? So all these things should equal the best boxing we've ever had. But no, it doesn't happen. And the reason, I think, one of the biggest reasons is today, we as a society, and boxers too, are mentally weak. And when I say that, it's, they don't want to lose. The promoter doesn't want to lose. A fan doesn't want to see their fighter lose. I got so turned off. Another reason I walked away for a little bit is I got so turned off by some of the boxing fans, the younger ones specific. Not that I'm against younger boxing fans, but they didn't want to learn about the history of the sport. And the history of the sport of boxing is like no other sport. It is these guys, the old time fighters paved the way for these guys today. And I believe that most fans should know a little about them and what they did. Today I was talking to a guy that used to be a manager, and Dave, I'll give him a plug, Dave Selwing. And he was we were talking about a fight that me and the late great Sal Rocky Senacola did when we had the rights to rebroadcast these shows, and we had a lot of fun doing it. But Benny Kid Perrette fought Gene Fulmer. And everybody always says how Benny Kid got killed in the ring and everything, but the Gene Fulmer fight, if you've never seen it, was the fight that really killed this guy. It was a brutal fight. Remember Tommy Hearns and Hagler, the best 3 rounds of live boxing I ever witnessed, until I watched this fight and I called this fight. We rebroadcast it, and I had never seen the fight before. Brutal, 10 rounds, okay? And back then, they didn't put a fighter on suspension. And Benny Kid Perrette fought 3 weeks later and ultimately died. Everybody remembers that. But Gene Fulmer, okay? Gene Fulmer's career was pretty much over, too, after that fight, okay? He only fought 3 more times. He won 1, he lost 1, and he had a draw in 1. So at least the commissions are being a little more safe with the fighters. But the heart and determination of fighters back in the day compared to today, you just can't. The story is the same generally with success stories. It's generally a fighter that came out of poverty and used boxing or any other sport to better their lives. Well, the definition of poverty from Jack Dempsey's time to today, even though it's still poverty, was a huge difference. Jack Dempsey went to school. He quit school like in 4th grade because he was so poor that they made him wear his sister's clothes because that's all he had. And he wasn't transitioning or nothing like that, like you would think today, right? I shouldn't have said that, but I don't care. And the truth of the matter is he didn't have shoes. He ended up going to work. He quit school and goes to work in the coal mines. Here's a kid that should be in school. Well, that's Jack Dempsey's story of poverty, and he used it. Now, today, you still got stories of poverty, and the kids still have to pull themselves out. But what do they pull themselves out to? We don't have trainers. We don't have good teachers anymore. We have rah-rah men. Hey, yeah, go out there and kick his ass. It's like, oh, how do I do that, coach? I'll throw some punches. I mean, that's what we got as trainers. And the reason is because boxing used to be a trade, and what I mean by a trade is a boxer would stroll into a gym as a kid, and he would start hanging out at the gym. He would fight a little bit, learn to be an amateur, go from an amateur to pro, and then after his pro career, he's back at the gym and he's training and he's teaching other kids, and it was a cycle, and that was the norm. Guys were able to make a living at professional boxing or even being a trainer. Today, most of them are doing other stuff and they're doing it on the side. It kills me to see these guys in the corner, the rah-rah men, the belt carriers, because you need at least 6 or 7 guys to carry all these alphabet belts around, and where are the good teachers? Where are the good trainers? I mean, think about it. Where are the good trainers? Half of them, they think the fight's about them. And my favorite thing I used to say all the time on the show is, we're going to do this. We're going to do that. The trainer's talking all before the fight. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then their fighter loses and they say, well, he didn't do this and he didn't do that. What happened to the we? What happened to the team? When the bell rings, there's only 2 guys in the ring and they're the fighters. All that entourage and all those rah-rah men behind them, they're not going to be able to help them. Anyway, listen, that's about all. I just I got my man Dave. Dave's in the chat room. Glad to see Dave. I'll just give some shout outs that out there. Team Batman Boxing is in there, and Del Bongo. I appreciate all the accolades, and EMT Rick. Hey, EMT Rick, if I recall correctly, he's a Dolphin fan. I'm a Jets fan. I know, but I kind of am pulling for the Dolphins. I did so many events down in Florida that I kind of like the Dolphins, and I'm an Alabama fan. So the truth of the matter is most of them are out, from Alabama. So so I'm just glad everybody is um, uh, communicating here in the chat room. That's right. Banner Promotions. Thank you. Art Pilello was the co-promoter for when Joe DeGuardia with Demetrius Andre. It slipped my old aging mind. But anyway, hey, listen, I just wanted to test the waters a little bit. And, I had this Ngannou Tyson Fury fight on my mind. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to see if I could remember how to do a show. And I think I can, like the little train that could. Don't ruin it for me. I'm almost done with that book. But the truth of the matter is I am going to do a show on Thursdays. I might start it. I might start it a little earlier than 6. I might start it at 5. But don't worry. You could always watch it on the YouTube channel and, of course, the podcast. So I'm hoping we'll get some guests on the show. I know I got my man Alex and Dax can come on when they have a chance, and I'm going to get some fighters on and try and have a little fun doing this. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I'm glad that and I just want to give a shout out to all the people that were texting me for the last year and emailing me and calling me on the phone and asking me. I still talked a lot of boxing individually with people, and I want to thank everybody for being diligent and waking my ass up to come back. One of the things I kept seeing this, boxing needs you, and I'm like, well, what do they need me for? But I not that I think boxing needs me, because boxing doesn't need anybody. But what I'm going to do is the same stuff I always did. I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to tell it like it is, at least the way I feel. I'm open for criticism. You can text me. You can email me. I'm very accessible. I'm actually trying to spend a little more time on Facebook and X, formerly known as Twitter. So I mean, all of that stuff. Reach out. Subscribe to us, follow us, do whatever we're supposed to do. And, if you have an idea of a topic or you want me to discuss, I know we're going to be getting into the historical stuff because that's actually my favorite. And, the best guy to do that over the years has been Alex Papali. So we'll get some of those blasts from the past back. So all that stuff. But for now, I'm going to call it a night. I appreciate you guys coming on and spending some time with me. And all I can say is tune in next Thursday. Might be a different time, but it's going to be the same bat channel. See you guys then. Ciao, baby.